Sofia Marino sat at the edge of the bed she had shared for 23 years. The funeral was over. The flowers were wilting. The house felt hollow in a way silence never had before. Antonio was gone. Not arrested, not missing, gone. Heart attack, swift, clinical, the kind of ending that felt wrong for a man who had built an empire on knowing when danger was coming. She stood and walked to the bathroom, washed her face, dried it carefully. These small actions kept her grounded when the world felt loose at the edges. Antonio had been a capo, everyone knew it, no one said it. He moved money through the city like water through pipes, legitimate businesses with roots that went deep and dark. He smiled at charity dinners. He shook hands with city councilors. He made problems disappear before they became problems. And he never raised his voice. That was the thing people forgot about power. Real power was quiet. The doorbell rang. Sofia checked her watch, 9 in the morning, early for condolence calls. She opened the door to find 3 men in dark suits, not the funeral kind, the business kind. The one in front was Vincent Gallo, Antonio's underboss, his right hand for 15 years. "Sofia, we need to talk." She stepped aside and let them in. They stood in her living room like monuments, uncomfortable, out of place without Antonio there to arrange them. Vincent cleared his throat. "There are things Antonio kept, records, arrangements. We need access to his private safe." Sofia looked at him calmly. "I don't know about any safe." "Sofia, please, this is important. There are people waiting, agreements that need to be honored." "Then you should have asked Antonio while he was alive." Vincent's jaw tightened. "We're asking nicely." Sofia walked to the door and opened it. "And I'm saying no, nicely." The 3 men exchanged glances. Then Vincent nodded slowly. "We'll be back." "I'm sure you will." She closed the door behind them and listened to their footsteps fade down the walkway. Then she went back to the bedroom. If they wanted it that badly, it was worth finding first. Sofia had always been observant. It was a survival skill in Antonio's world. Notice things, remember details, stay 3 steps ahead of what people weren't saying. She started in his study, checked behind paintings, under the desk, inside book spines. Nothing. Then the bedroom, closet by closet, drawer by drawer. Antonio had been methodical, everything in its place, everything organized by purpose. She ran her hands along the closet walls and stopped. There was a small inconsistency, a tiny gap between the back wall and the hanging rod, barely noticeable. She pushed the suits aside and pressed her palm against the wall. It gave. A panel, hidden behind the clothes he wore to weddings and wakes. Sofia pulled it free and stared into the dark space behind it. A safe. Small steel, professional. Of course there was a safe. Vincent hadn't been bluffing. She tried his birthday, nothing. Their anniversary, nothing. Then she tried the date they first met. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Sofia exhaled slowly and reached inside. No cash, no documents, no guns or ledgers or blackmail files. Just a photograph. One single faded image in a plain envelope. She pulled it out carefully and turned it toward the light. Her breath stopped. The photograph was old, decades old, the kind that aged with soft edges and color that drifted toward sepia. But the face was unmistakable. It was Sofia. Younger, maybe 19 or 20, smiling in a way she barely remembered smiling, standing in front of a building she did not recognize. And around her neck, clear as daylight, hung a locket. The same locket Antonio wore every single day of his life. Sofia set the photo down on the bed and pressed her fingers to her temples. This was impossible. She had met Antonio when she was 26, at a cousin's wedding. He had been polite, charming. He asked her to dance and then asked if he could call her. That was the story. That was the beginning. There had been no meeting before that. She picked up the photo again and studied it. The clothes she was wearing, the way her hair fell, the light in her eyes. It was her, no question. But when? She pulled down the box of old photos from her closet shelf and began sorting through them. One by one, birthday parties, graduations, beach trips with friends. None of them matched. And then she saw it. A photo from her 21st birthday. Same shirt, same hair, same smile. But no locket. Sofia held the two images side by side. Identical, except for the locket around her neck in Antonio's version. She had never owned a locket like that. Antonio had. He wore it under his shirt, always. She had asked him about it once, early in their marriage. He had smiled and said it was a family thing, nothing important. She had never asked again. Sofia returned to the safe and checked once more. Nothing else inside. Just the photograph and the questions it carried. Sofia sat at the kitchen table with Antonio's locket in front of her. She had taken it from his body before the funeral. The director had asked if she wanted to bury him with it. She had said no. At the time, she thought it was sentiment. Now she understood it was instinct. The locket was simple, silver, worn smooth from years of handling, no engraving on the outside. She had never seen him open it. Sofia picked it up and felt the weight of it, heavier than it looked, solid. She turned it over in her hands and found the clasp. It was tight, stuck from years of being closed. She used a butter knife to gently pry it open. Inside was a lock of hair, dark brown, tied with a thin white ribbon. And beneath it, folded so small it almost disappeared, was a piece of paper. Sofia unfolded it carefully. The creases were deep, permanent. Written in faded ink were 3 lines. A name, Elena Costello. A date, April 14, 1983. And an address in Red Hook, Brooklyn. The date was 43 years ago, long before she met Antonio. Sofia stared at the paper for a long time. Antonio had carried this his entire adult life, close to his heart, never speaking of it. And somehow it connected to her. Her phone rang. Vincent again, 3rd time today. She didn't answer. Instead, she stood and walked to the window. The street outside had a black sedan parked 3 houses down, had been there since morning. They were watching, waiting. Antonio's people wanted whatever was in that safe. They assumed it was leverage, insurance, the kind of thing that kept powerful men powerful even after they were dead. A photograph of a girl wouldn't mean anything to them. But it meant everything to Sofia. She looked down at the paper in her hand. The name written there meant nothing to her, but it had meant something to Antonio. And if this connected to her, she needed to know why. Before Vincent decided to stop asking nicely, she grabbed her coat and headed for the door. The address led to a building that no longer existed. Sofia stood on the corner and checked the paper again. The numbers matched, but where a building should have been, there was now a small community garden, raised beds, tomato plants, a bench with peeling paint. She walked to the edge of the lot and looked around. An older man was watering the plants near the back fence. He glanced up when she approached. "Help you with something?" "I'm looking for a building that used to be here, maybe 40 years ago." The man set down his watering can and wiped his hands on his jeans. 40 years, that'd be before the fire. Fire? Big one took out half the block. This whole area was tenements back then, rough neighborhood. Most people were glad to see it go, except the families, of course. Sofia felt something shift in her chest. "Do you remember anyone who lived here?" The man thought about it. "I didn't move here until the 90s, but people still talked about it. 2 women died, mother and daughter. Costello was the name, I think. Costello, the name from the locket. Was anyone else hurt? The man's expression changed. Something careful entered his eyes. There was a baby, the daughter's baby, survived because she'd been left with a neighbor that night. After the fire, the family that was watching her moved away, took the kid with them. Sofia's mouth went dry. Do you know where they went? No idea, but there was a son too, the older brother. He wasn't home when it happened, working or something. People said he blamed himself, went a little crazy looking for the baby afterward. The man studied Sofia's face. You looking for someone specific? Sofia shook her head slowly. Just trying to understand something, thank you. She walked back to her car and sat behind the wheel for a long time. The pieces were starting to fit together in ways that made her chest tight. Elena Costello died in a fire, had a baby daughter. A daughter who survived. A daughter someone took away. Sofia thought about her own childhood, the parents who raised her, the story they told about adoption, private arrangements, family connections. The details they never gave her. She drove to the library. The librarian at the Brooklyn Public Library was efficient. She listened to Sofia's request and nodded. Fire records from 1983. We have them. Microfiche. You'll need to use the machine in the back. Sofia threaded the film with steady hands. It took 20 minutes to find the right date. The fire had made the papers. Front page for 2 days running. The headline read, Tenement Blaze Claims 2 Lives. There were photos, smoke pouring from windows, firefighters silhouetted against flames. And then the names. Maria Costello, age 53. Elena Costello, age 22. Sofia read the article twice. The fire had started in their apartment, electrical fault. By the time anyone noticed, it was too late. There was a brief mention of family, a son, Antonio Costello, age 15, working a shift in Queens when the fire started. Sofia stopped breathing. Antonio Costello. Not Marino, Costello. She scrolled through the follow-up articles, a small memorial notice, and then a brief piece 3 months later. Family seeks information on missing infant. The article was short. Antonio Costello, now 18, was looking for his infant niece. Last seen with neighbors the night of the fire. Family had relocated. No forwarding information. Anyone with information should contact the number below. Sofia leaned back in her chair. Antonio hadn't met her by chance. He had found her. She turned off the machine and walked outside. The air felt thin, sharp. Her phone buzzed, Vincent again. This time she answered. Sofia, we need to talk today. I'm busy. This isn't a request anymore. There are people asking questions, people who need answers. What people? The kind Antonio protected you from, the kind who don't wait long. Sofia ended the call. She had maybe 24 hours before Vincent stopped asking and started taking. She needed the whole truth, fast. Sofia spent 3 hours at the city clerk's office, going through birth and death certificates. She found Maria Costello's death certificate, smoke inhalation. Elena's was the same. Then she found Elena's birth records, and beneath that a cross-reference. Elena Costello had a child, a daughter, born 2 months before the fire. The birth certificate listed the father as unknown. The daughter's name was Sofia Costello. Sofia stared at the document until the words stopped making sense. Then she sat down on the steps outside and breathed. She had been adopted. She knew that. Her parents, the people she called mom and dad, had told her when she was 12. They said her birth mother had died, that she had been placed with them through a family connection. They never gave her the name. When she asked, they said it was better to leave the past alone. She had accepted that. But now the past had teeth. Antonio had known. He had always known. He hadn't met her by chance at a wedding. He had searched for years, found her, watched her, made sure she was safe. And then he had arranged to be introduced. The man she married had been her uncle, her mother's brother. Sofia stood slowly. That changed everything. Not just about Antonio, about the photograph, about what he had hidden in that safe, and about why Vincent wanted it so badly. She drove home with her hands tight on the wheel. Sofia spent the next 2 days going through Antonio's things. The hidden things, the boxes in the attic, the files in the basement, the second safe deposit box she found a key for in his desk. She found records, photographs, letters written in Italian that she had translated. Slowly a picture formed. Antonio had been 15 when the fire happened. His mother and sister died. His infant niece disappeared into a system designed to erase histories. He spent years searching, using every connection, every favor, every thread. He found her when she was 25, 1 year before the wedding. But he didn't just find Sofia. He found the truth about the fire. It wasn't an accident. Maria Costello had witnessed something, a meeting, a deal going wrong. She had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. The fire was a message, a clean end to a loose thread. Antonio had proof, photographs, tape recordings, names and dates that connected to families still operating in the city. Families that were now Vincent's partners. The photograph in the safe wasn't sentimental. It was bait. Antonio had known eventually someone would come looking, would want to know what he had kept hidden. The photograph would lead them to Sofia, to her real identity, to questions about why he married his own niece without telling anyone who she was. Questions that would distract from the real insurance Antonio had stashed somewhere else. Sofia sat in his study and reread the last letter he had written but never sent. In it he explained, apologized, and gave her instructions. If she was reading this, it meant he was gone. It meant people would come asking. It meant she needed to decide what truth to give them. The letter ended with 2 sentences. You deserved a life without this weight, but if they push, make sure they remember why they should have left you alone. Sofia folded the letter carefully. She finally understood what Antonio had been protecting all these years. Not just her, not just himself. The balance. Vincent came to the house the next morning with 4 men instead of 3. Sofia opened the door before he could knock. You found it, he said, not a question. I did. And it's not what you think. Vincent's expression hardened. Sofia, we don't have time for games. There are families asking questions. They know Antonio had something. Insurance. They want it. It's a photograph. Of what? Of me. Vincent blinked. That's it, a photograph. That's it. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed short, sharp. You're telling me Antonio hid a picture of his wife in a safe, and that's supposed to mean something. It means he wanted you to waste time looking for it while ignoring what actually mattered. Vincent's smile faded. Where is it, the real insurance? Gone, I burned it. You what? Sofia met his eyes calmly. Antonio spent 20 years building leverage against people who didn't deserve to sleep easy. He kept it as insurance, but he's dead now. The leverage dies with him. Vincent took a step forward. You have no idea what you just did. Those families will come looking. They'll tear this city apart. Let them look, they won't find anything. They'll come for you. Sofia smiled. It was a small smile, tired. Vincent, I just found out my husband was actually my uncle, that he married me to protect me from the same people who killed my mother and grandmother, that I've been living inside his long game for 23 years. She stepped closer. So when those families come looking, you tell them this. Sofia Marino doesn't exist anymore. She's a widow with no ties to Antonio's business, no access to his networks, no interest in his wars. And if they don't believe that, then you remind them what happens when they underestimate quiet women who have been paying attention. Vincent studied her face, then he nodded slowly. Antonio taught you well. Antonio taught me survival. He turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, he loved you, really loved you, I saw it. I know. Vincent walked away. Sofia closed the door and locked it. 3 days later, Sofia received a phone call. Unknown number, she almost didn't answer. Mrs. Marino. The voice was older, careful. Who's asking? My name is Thomas Brennan. I worked with your husband, years ago, before he was Antonio Marino. Sofia said nothing. I heard about his passing, and I heard Vincent came to see you. News travels fast. In our world, it always does. Sofia waited. I'm calling because I knew your mother, Elena, and your grandmother, Maria, good people. They didn't deserve what happened. Why are you telling me this? Because Antonio spent 40 years making sure the men responsible paid for it. Slowly, carefully, every business deal that went wrong, every arrest that came at the right time, every alliance that crumbled. Thomas paused. He protected you by making himself indispensable, by becoming someone they needed more than they wanted revenge. And now that he's gone, they're afraid of what he left behind. There's nothing left behind. I know, and that's the most powerful thing of all. Sofia frowned. What do you mean? Fear of the unknown keeps more peace than any weapon. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them believe Sofia Marino is sitting on 40 years of Antonio's secrets. You want me to pretend? I want you to survive, the way Antonio wanted. The line went quiet for a moment. Then Thomas spoke again. He was a good man trapped in a bad system, but he found a way to be both, and he made sure you could walk away when it was over. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't, but if I wanted you dead, this conversation wouldn't be happening. The line clicked off. Sofia set down the phone. She thought about Antonio, about the choices he had made, the life he had built around a truth he could never speak, about the revenge he had taken so quietly that no one realized they were paying for old sins. She thought about the family still out there, still wondering, still afraid. And she thought about the photograph, the one piece of truth she had kept. Sofia walked to the fireplace and burned it. Some stories ended when the people who held them let go. Sofia sold the house 3 months later. She bought a small apartment in Manhattan, near the park, quiet, hers. She kept very little: clothes, books, a few photographs, the locket, and one envelope she found tucked inside Antonio's favorite book, the one he read every year but never discussed. Inside was a key, small, old-fashioned, and a note in his handwriting. For when you're ready to stop running and start building. The key led to a storage unit in New Jersey, paid through 2050. Inside were documents, clean documents, birth certificates, bank accounts in her real name, Sofia Costello. Educational records showing degrees she never earned but could now claim. Work history that gave her a background completely separate from Antonio Marino's world. A new life, legitimate, traceable, real. He had built her an escape route, not from danger, from his shadow. Sofia stood in the storage unit for a long time. Then she took the documents and locked the unit behind her. She started teaching piano 6 months after the move. Music was something clean, separate, hers. Her students were mostly children, some adults, people who wanted to learn something new or remember something old. She was patient, methodical. One afternoon, A student asked about the locket she wore. "It was my uncle's," Sofia said. "What's inside?" "A reminder." "Of what?" "That family protects you, even when you don't know you need it." The student nodded seriously and turned back to the keys. When the lesson ended, Sofia sat alone at the piano. She thought about Antonio, about the fire, about the 40 years he spent balancing justice and survival, about the families still wondering what he had hidden, what Sofia knew. Let them wonder. She placed her hands on the keys and played. Not for memory, not for ghosts. For herself. Because Antonio had given her the rarest gift anyone in his world could offer. The freedom to disappear. And in that world, the ones who disappeared were the ones who won.